I used 340 kilograms of bronze to recreate a refrigerator from 2,400 years ago, Zeng Jian. In ancient times, there was no electricity. If you wanted to eat ice cream in summer, you had to start in winter. Zhou records that as early as the Western Zhou dynasty, there was a department specifically responsible for collecting and storing ice. Every year after the winter solstice, Ling Ren leads an ice harvesting team of 80 to set out, cut the ice into 3-foot square ice cubes, and transport them to the pre-dug Lingyi for storage. As soon as the summer solstice arrives, the ice-moving ceremony officially starts. It's just that 2/3 of the ice has melted by this time, so the amount of ice harvested at the beginning must be more than 3 times the actual amount of ice used. Of course, there is a strict hierarchy in the use of ice cubes that are so hard to come by and even more difficult to preserve. Historical records record that the emperor provided ice 3 times a day for sacrifice, feasting and sleeping. The princes can provide 5 parts of ice every month, but they have to exchange twice as many lambs. The doctor will give each one a square ice in the new year, but it can only be used for red and white events. As for ordinary people, they probably don't even have the chance to look at the ice and sigh, so they can only paint ice to relieve the heat. If someone wants to use some crooked thinking to steal 2 pieces, he will be punished with severe punishment. It is said that the law of the Qing dynasty stipulated that anyone who stole more than 30 kilograms of official ice would be tattooed as Qingdan, that is, tattooed on the face, and then built into a wall. During the Han dynasty, anyone who stole more than 10 kilograms of official ice would have their nose cut off. During the Yuan dynasty, those who stole soldiers had to lie naked on the ice for 3 days. During the Qing dynasty, ice thieves were sent to Ninggu Pagoda to cut ice and transport wood. A few pieces of ice are easily available today and are inconspicuous, but in ancient times when refrigeration technology was scarce, it was out of reach and out of reach. Suddenly, I felt that the 2-cent popsicles that the old lady on the roadside took out from the foam box wrapped in a quilt when I was a child were so luxurious. In fact, the ancients loved cold drinks as much as we do. It is said that iced honey water was already available in the Qing dynasty, and Sushan was created in the Tang dynasty, which was said to be the most delicious ice cream at that time. However, due to the extreme scarcity of ice, these delicacies are almost exclusively served by the royal family, and it may be difficult for ordinary people to even see them. Although ice cubes have gradually flowed into the market since the Tang dynasty and are no longer monopolized by the royal family, the price is ridiculously expensive. History books record that ice and snow in Chang'an are worth as much as gold coins in summer, and the hotter the weather, the higher the price of ice. It is said that an ice pile at that time could even be sold for 1 tael of gold, which shows that ordinary people still cannot afford the sky-high price of ice. But there are always people who can afford it. It is said that Bai Juyi achieved financial freedom by writing poems, and he sold ice cubes by the basket. It was not until the end of the Tang dynasty that the saltpeter ice-making method was developed, which greatly reduced the cost of making ice. Therefore, starting from the Song dynasty, people could eat ice even if they tried their best. It is said that there were dozens of types of cold drinks during the Song dynasty. There are also shops specializing in cold drinks, Yinzi and Zhangjianzi in the Qingming Mountains and Rivers picture. Sugar mung bean ice, cold water lychee cake, ice snow cold garden, they all sound delicious. There is also jelly, which is still eaten today, and it is said that it originated in the Song dynasty. However, although cold drinks are delicious, don't be greedy for too much. It is said that both Song Huizong and Song Xiaozong suffered from diarrhea due to excessive consumption of cold drinks, leaving the imperial doctors helpless. After a lot of effort, the pattern template was finally ready, and the next step was to witness the miracle of the moment. Using the master copy method and the master metamorphosis, you can get rid of all the scribes who built the body. The ice ticket system was implemented during the Ming and Qing dynasties. As soon as summer arrives, the imperial court will issue ice tickets according to official rank, which is regarded as heat stroke prevention and cooling expenses. Civil and military officials received ice based on ice tickets, while the concubines in the harem received ice cubes daily according to their status, also known as ice regulations. The queen can use 160 kilograms of ice every day, and the imperial concubine can use 120 kilograms. By analogy, it will only be 30 kilograms in Chongzai, and it can only be used at noon and noon. The last one's promise is unprecedented. Of course, those in high positions usually have exclusive privileges. It is said that Cixi once used 5,000 kilograms of ice in one day. Not only that, Cixi also invented the Jingxian watermelon. It is said that she consumes 200 watermelons every day because she only eats the sweetest part in the center without the seeds. It seems that the women in the harem are always fighting fiercely, which is really necessary. Otherwise the status is too low to even have a sip of ice-cold soda. No wonder in the legend of Zhen Huan, only Ikuan Palace has large blocks of ice to use, and only concubine Hua has iced watermelon to eat. Suddenly I felt that the watermelon in my hand was extra sweet. It was this piece of ice that allowed the ancients to enjoy the beauty of the cold winter in midsummer, and also contributed to the strict hierarchy of the Forbidden City. Probably in order to drink iced rice wine, the ancients invented the bronze ice mirror. It is known as the world's earliest refrigerator. The outside is a mirror, the inside is a faux, sandwiched with square ice, and the inside of the faux is filled with wine. Pair it with some barbecue and side dishes to go with wine, and finish it off with a sip of rice wine. Wow, it's so icy. It is said that the main hall of Qin Shi Huang's Xianyang Palace was replaced with 12 bronze ice mirrors, which can freeze 48 kinds of wine at the same time. It seems that no matter which dynasty we are in, the summer with ice is the best summer. The main wax parts are done, and the next step is the various accessories. This monarch of the Zeng state during the Warring States period had extremely high requirements for craftsmanship. It is said that the Izuan plate of Marquis Zeng was more complex than the Bingjian. It was the most complex and exquisite bronze ware in the spring and autumn period and the Warring States period, and was one of the most complex. Bronze, a name full of mystery and magical power, is actually given to it by us modern people. In ancient times, it was called gold or auspicious gold. When the ancestors of the Neolithic age accidentally discovered that a stone with a strange green light would bleed out red divine blood after being calcined in a charcoal fire. Since then, the Chinese ancestors have officially entered the era of metal civilization. However, the hardness of pure copper is too low and too soft, so people gradually figured out that adding a certain proportion of tin and lead during smelting can make the copper harder and the color more golden and dazzling. This is how bronze was born. Therefore, the newly cast bronze is not black and green in our impression, but smooth and golden. It was only because it had been buried underground for too long that the surface was oxidized to form a thick layer of patina, so we named it bronze. From the initial ritual weapons to the later stoneware, water vessels, wine vessels, and musical instruments, these rare words that cannot be fully recognized have been popular for 1,600 years. The casting methods of bronzes are generally divided into two types, pan casting method and lost wax method. The pan casting method is the originator. Most bronzes in the Shang and Zhou dynasties were cast using this method, such as the stepmother Wu Ding and the Xiong Fengzuan. The lost wax method emerged during the spring and autumn period and the Warring States period, and was mainly used to cast objects with relatively complex patterns and structures, such as the Zhengho Yi Bingjian I am currently working on. If the Xiao dynasty made bronze wares a symbol of power, then it was undoubtedly the Shang dynasty that truly put bronze wares on the altar. It is said that the 800-kilogram Humuding required 70 or 80 crucibles and was completed by more than 200 skilled craftsmen in a short period of time. You can imagine the spectacular scene. The four-goat square statue with scales on its back as thin as hair is said to have hollow horns. There is also an L figure of the first female war goddess in China, and the Sang-Singdui bronze dolly figure, which is famous in ancient Shu. The unconstrained Shang dynasty people proved with practical actions that everything can be transformed into iron. If merchants made bronze wares popular all over the internet, then Zhou people infused bronze wares with the soul of order. Legend has it that Xia Yu once collected Jiu Mu's gold and cast a jiuding under Jingshan Mountain to symbolize Jiuzhou. Since then, the tripod has developed from an ordinary cooking utensil to a national treasure, becoming a symbol of the country and power. If the capital is established, the tripod will be established. If the country is destroyed, the tripod will be moved. According to the Zhou calendar, the nobles had strict regulations on the types and quantities of tripods and gui used. The emperor used 9 tripods and 8 guis. The princes used 7 tripods and 6 guis. The officials had 5 tripods and 4 guis, and the scholars could only use 3 tripods and 2 guis. It can be seen that the Emperor Zhou used jiuding and 8 gui to eat not because he had a big appetite, but because the higher these bronze and stone utensils were piled, the more he could demonstrate his true noble status. King Chuzhuang, who aspired to conquer the Central Plains, seemed to be inquiring about the weight of the tripod, but in fact he was coveting the world of King Zhouding, because the weight of that bronze tripod is the weight of the world. In the Canyon of Kings, bronze is the lowest level player, but if you could travel back 3,000 years, you would understand that bronze at that time was the king of kings. The more copper band from the spring and autumn period cosplayed by Lei Jiaying in National Treasure is not only a physical version of the ancient alcohol prohibition, but also the earliest lost wax casting discovered so far. It is said that the thinnest part of the moire gap is only 1 millimeter. The complete set of 65 pieces of the giant bronze musical instrument chimes of Marquis of Zeng not only realizes a double tone in one bell, but also clearly records the musical comparison table of Xinghua and several other countries in the more than 3,000 words of inscriptions. It is simply an international music dictionary engraved on bronze. There is also the Chinese Zun, the tallest building in Beijing, which was just built a few years ago. Its prototype is the Hezun from the Western Zhou dynasty that I have in my hand from 3,000 years ago. In the 122-character text at the bottom, Jizi China is the earliest historical record of the word China. These bronzes, which have been sleeping for thousands of years, are waking up little by little amidst the repeated calls of the world, and have become the most hardcore cultural link between ancient and modern times. In Neza, the thick-browed enchantment beast seems to be possessed by the Sanxingdui bronze mask. In Fengshen, the bronze Yachou key held by King Zhou can be called the cutest ceremonial weapon of the Shang dynasty. It turns out that there is only a movie distance between the exhibition hall of the museum and the screens in thousands of households. Bronze has not only created historical miracles, but also contributed many words that modern people use every day. When casting with the flood casting method, copper water needs to be poured between the inner mold made of mud and the outer mold to form. This is where the word model comes from. The bronze jute commonly used for drinking in costume dramas is not just a wine glass, but the earliest professional title certificate of the ancients. There are records and history books that the Emperor of Zhou would replace some people with larger bronze lords on the spot at banquets based on their performance, and this action of changing to a big cup is the original scene of entering the Jiu. This is where promotion of officialdom and nobility comes from, because the capacity of the cup is a symbol of power. 3 liters for a duke and 2.5 liters for a marquis. Earl, viscount and baron are ranked in descending order, and the drinking posture is also particular. The duke can hold the title with one hand, while the marquis needs to hold the title with both hands. The ministers should raise their eyebrows before drinking. When it comes to the toasts, it is still said that those with lower titles must drink up all the wine in order to show their obedience, while those with higher titles can take a sip. One may interpret the rules of survival in the workplace 3,000 years ago. I do it, you can do whatever you want. The ritual system of the Western Zhou dynasty also stipulates that people of different status use different honors during banquets. The emperor uses elephant honors, princes use cattle honors, and scholar bureaucrats can only use sheep honors. This is where the order of hierarchy comes from. There are also many words related to bronzes, such as Zundu false capital. When the Gojian sword of the king of Yu traveled 2,300 years and reappeared in the world, the sword's edge was still as cold as ever, and the secret of the casting of the diamond-shaped dark checkered pattern on the sword's body cannot be completely solved to this day. Although iron swords have appeared since the Qin and Han dynasties, and although iron swords can cut off bronze swords, the bronze culture solidified in idioms can never cut off. A word and 9 cauldrons are exchanged, and a fight breaks out. As long as Chinese characters are still written and Chinese is spoken, this patina will always be fresh. It is the rise and fall of dynasties in the belly of the tripod, the spirit of the world on the edge of the sword, the poetry and wine in the cup, and the surging rituals and music in the room. If you also have an imperial dream, then bring the moonlight box with me and travel back to the ancient and mysterious Bronze Age.